Dr. Cindy here. Happy Black History Month. And a special hello to all my family practice member family. This is a video essay that I'm going to be doing about an essay I wrote yesterday. It's called Black Groupthink and Fused Identity and Observation. You know, people always say that Black people are not unified. I hear that all the time. We need to unify. We need to come together. You need to realize something that I call fused identity. Fused identity is something that Blackness created, and Black people created Blackness as a state of being, as a way of pushing and railing against the ideology of white supremacy. So I just first want to say thank you to Cecil Hankins, who engaged me in a very deep dive conversation that at first didn't have to do with his post, but because of one of the things that was mentioned as a concern of one of the commenters, it inspired me. And as you know, people that know me know that when I write, it's because I'm being inspired. I'm inspired by something. So thank you, Cecil, because you inspired me to write this essay. It has to do with individualism. It has to do with independence. And it's just an observation because I'm not a psychologist. God knows if I went back to school, I'd love to go back for psychology, because I'm a fiend for lifelong learning. Anyway, let's get to this video essay. And I want you to put your thinking caps on, because this is going to be some rather deep stuff. I want you to put on your thinking caps, and I want you to listen very carefully, especially Black people who are listening to this, okay? This is called Black Groupthink and Fused Identity and Observation. Let's get started. I never profess to speak for all Black people, and certainly this essay is not about those things all Black people do. It is, however, about that offshoot of white supremacist ideology which groups all Black people together and declares no matter who we think we are all the same as far as they are concerned. It is the thinking so ingrained in the psyches of Black people, it both unifies us in the triumph of a singular Black achievement and vilifies us in the damage caused by a singular Black crime or indiscretion. In this essay, I discuss the phenomenon of Black groupthink and what I call fused identity, and how to begin to recognize them for the good and the bad they do to individual, independent, critical thought. Of course, this is not a scholarly thesis on the subject from a psychological standpoint, since it would be tantamount to malpractice of a sort, seeing as how I do not hold a degree in psychology. No, this is an observation of behaviors that are a definite part of the overall makeup of the consciousness of Blackness, the state of being Black, and how we do ourselves internal injustices and may not even be aware. In psychology, Groupthink is defined as a mode of thinking in which individual members of small cohesive groups tend to accept a viewpoint or conclusion that represents a perceived group consensus, whether or not the group members believe it to be valid, correct, or optimal. It further states that groupthink reduces the efficiency of collective problem solving within these groups. Black groupthink, for purposes of this essay, means everyone within the race who thinks the same way for the same circumstance and or event, who accept a viewpoint or conclusion even if it is contrary to what the individuals within the group believe are based in fact. Essentially, the psychological definition works, except for the number of individuals, since Black groupthink is specific to Black people. Fused identity means one or more concepts of any particular identity as defined are fused together into the identity of the entire group or race, especially through thought and deed. Blackness can be called fused identity because it consists of concepts of identity which sprung up from the enslavement, racism, the African diaspora, and even religion for some. For Black people, this fused identity creates unity, which by itself is a good thing, but should be understood so as not to allow unity to undermine us as well in thought and deed. By that I mean skin-based shame and blame. I hope I still have you. Of the many paradoxes created by the ideology of white supremacy and its structural creation, racism, one is the constant push-pull of that part of the supremacist ideology which created the stereotypes and beliefs and the definitions of identity and helped to make manifest many of the negative behaviors by some Black people as a result. The push against the ideology stems from generations of being fed a steady diet of inferiority and degradation, where the actions of just one Black person counted for all Black people in a vacuum. Black people are still in a constant struggle of defiance against that which sets itself up as superior and creates mechanisms, laws, regulations, rules, and behaviors to ensure the fallacy remains intact. At the same time, fused identity of Blackness pulls into itself every success, triumph, win, and achievement by complete strangers as a counter to the supremacist belief where just one act of positive consequence stands for all Black people and makes Black people proud. Alternatively, Blackness also pulls into it the shame and blame of individual acts of indiscretion and crime and other unwelcome behaviors, and Black people become unified in self-hatred and shame. See, you need to understand that it's this fused identity, which is our Blackness, which unifies us. And it's going to unify us whether we're happy about something or whether we are disgusted with ourselves about something. We're unified in that happiness and we're unified in that disgust. Okay, so I hope you're following me. I contend there are too many Black people actually trapped in Black groupthink and fused identity most of the time without ever knowing it, and therefore will not allow themselves the luxury and privilege of being individual and engaging in independent thought. The reason, in my view, is because some actually lack the ability to see themselves as individuals without appearing selfish to the group. I'm going to explain that a little further later on. And will naturally take on the entirety of Blackness as defined by white supremacist ideology, as though they are singularly responsible and as a group for the actions of an individual person. Why? Simply because the unseen unifying force of Blackness that surrounds us demands it. Our fused identity creates unity all the time. Why can this be problematic? Consider the questions I'm going to raise below, because they are important to think critically about as my observation progresses. I'm going to read them now. I want you to think about these questions. How often, when a crime is committed, or alternatively, something positive by a celebrity or sports hero on social media or the news, do Black people tend to believe these individual behaviors or events are only possible because of the group or collective dynamics of the entire race? Think Black girl magic, excellence in sports, Black on Black crime. How often do we literally feel responsible as though the entire race committed a crime anywhere in the country by total strangers simply because the criminal was Black? How often do we cringe at the thought of that person in the news who committed a crime was Black? Because it makes every single one of us look bad. And exhale, sighs of relief upon revelations that the criminal wasn't Black after all. How many times have we thought we as a people need to stop, insert some indiscretion, simply because we saw something one person did on memes and social media, in news reports or videos? I find myself doing it all the time when I read something positive a Black person invented and I share it on social media with the caption, "Thank Black." People reading these questions or hearing these questions may or may not have thought seriously about these kinds of behaviors. But if you're Black, I can guarantee with a great measure of certainty, we all have lent ourselves to these behaviors, and without even considering why or how these behaviors affect and effect our individual independent thought. It is important to understand when we engage in this type of behavior, it is an indication of fused identity and Black groupthink, and we should take a step back. Just take a step back to consider the fact we are all individuals capable of independent thought, and our skin color, while it binds us in unity through our fused identity, is not and should not be considered why we behave the way we do. Let me repeat that. We are all individuals capable of independent thought, and our skin color, while it binds us in unity through our fused identity, and I have to say that is a good thing because we need it, living under racism and white supremacy, we need our fused identity because it unites us, it creates unity. But it is not and should not be considered why we behave the way we do. One of the fundamental tenets of the white supremacist ideology is the notion of independence through skin-based privilege and dependence through skin-based denial. Let me repeat that. One of the fundamental tenets of the white supremacist ideology is the notion of independence through skin-based privilege and dependence through skin-based denial. Within that privilege and denial, there are beliefs that our skin color is why we behave the way we do, and which by design translates into the behaviors that either inadvertently or overtly support the ideology. Are you hearing me? It is no secret that Black American descendants of the enslavement are inextricably bound by the fused identity of the enslavement. Based on our common heritage as descendants of the bondage of the enslavement, it gives us the only generational lineage we have living in this country as we live among people with geographical lineage through immigration, both Black and white. And even with indigenous people who have both lineage and history outside of white supremacy and racism in America. Judaism and the common heritage and lineage of the Holocaust is a perfect example of the kind of common unified bond and fused identity of the Jewish faith. The irony of the two atrocities, the enslavement and the Holocaust, is the way white supremacy reverences one and dismisses the other when it was the same superiority ideology that brought both. The fused identity of one group is lauded and the other shamed. Being connected to a group identity is very important. But here's the problem. And I want you to pay special attention to this. If that group identity was created by white supremacists as a way to suppress and subjugate a defined group, and the group has built a sense of self-identity based on negative, contrived, and contradictory perceptions of the group as defined by the ideology, then it causes a deficit in the individual's ability to think outside of the negativity, relegating him or her to dependence and potential internalized self-hate, blame, and shame relative to the negative reflection of the group. The group identity then becomes fused with the negativity of white supremacy. The group blame shame dynamic of behaviors attaches itself to the notions of uniquely Black and only Black, as is the case with Black on Black crime, overly scrutinized as though skin-based crime is uniquely and only Black. There is no such thing. I'm going to repeat that. There is no such thing as Black on Black crime. I need my Black friends, family to understand there is no such thing as Black on Black crime any more than any other crime by any other ethnicity or so-called race. Crime is a human frailty, and I would dare say is a direct result of our systems, including our system of economics, because of the unfairness and denial of opportunity of everybody by the people in power. However, the ideology of white supremacy places a higher contextual significance of color to crimes among African Americans than any other, as though color somehow makes these crimes more significant and heinous than any other. A unique phenomenon of being Black, and thus justifies the inferiority of the group. Do you see how that works? Do you see how that works? Black on Black crime, and I want you to understand this. Black on Black crime is one of the hardest in Black groupthink to overcome. This is why I'm stressing it so much, to say to you, there is no such thing as Black on Black crime. Stop it. It runs contrary to actual fact. This fallacy literally welded itself onto the identity of Blackness such that it is almost impossible to be pried apart and seen for the fallacy it is. You will have people justify and rationalizing Black on Black crime as though it is a national emergency. Unlike any other national emergency among Black people or anybody else. It pulls itself into our fused identity. And as bad as it is, because this fallacy pulls itself into our fused identity, and keep in mind, our fused identity of Blackness is what creates our unity. As bad as it is, it unifies Blackness around the fallacy. It unifies Blackness around that lie. So that you have so many Black people who group think that way, who will say, oh, yeah, it's Black on Black crime. Now, I contend alleviating crime among Black people is a responsibility we should embrace as any other human being would. See, there's a key there. There's a key, deep divers. We are human. And if there is an ideology out there that is in constant focus on making us something other than human, that is one of the ways. But like I said, I contend alleviating crime among Black people is a responsibility we should embrace as any other human being would. Black people should not, for a moment, however, think that crime is uniquely ours, or that crimes that are committed by individuals are the fault of ourselves because we lack the capability to end crime. Some of us even say it is that unity that they say we don't have, which we do have. Talk about the circular referencing here. We need unity to stop crime. I'm here to tell you, no one has the capability to end crime in this country. Not us. No one. And I'll preface that with, not preface it, I will throw in a little caveat, except for the people who are in control and they're not trying to stop crime. Okay? But you, me, him, her, they can't do it. No one. Crime should not be used as a way to justify a feigned notion of superiority of white people in relation to crimes committed by themselves and other groups. For example, crimes among Latinx or Asians or any other group are not singularly held out as a national crisis, even though crime exists in all those communities as well. These groups are not publicized to the same extent because the battle, I need you to understand, the battle for white supremacy is not being waged on them as much as for Black people in the United States. The reason is clear. It is literally black and white. Literally. And has been this way since the inception of this country. It has been this way certainly since the end of the Civil War. And I've been doing some research on this thing that I'm writing that shows that there are a number, Abe Lincoln included, who believe that Black people are responsible for the Civil War. Not that it was just a war fought for us, about us, or about slavery, which it was. But there is a common conception in groupthink among white people even today, and it was a feeling by Abraham Lincoln that we were responsible. And had we not even been in this country, had we not started this thing, they wouldn't be hating each other. They wouldn't have been fighting. So you keep that in mind. The battle is literally black and white. Conversely, now I need for you to understand this as well, because I was talking a lot about that negative aspect, okay? But conversely, we should not think that achievement by individual Black people is necessarily our collective achievement because they're Black either. I know that is probably upsetting to hear or to read if you read this essay on my website. But if we accept, if Black people are going to accept Black girl magic because we're Black girls, I want you to hear me. If we're going to accept Black girl magic because we're Black girls, then we are also accepting Black on Black crime. Why? Because both are based on the same ideology of white supremacy, where one is a push and one is a pull. Now recall what I talked about, that push-pull that we find ourselves in, where we're railing against all of the stereotypes and all of the negative information that we're constantly getting fed and constantly being thought to be, and we rail against that, so that what we do is we create that unity around the achievements, and we base that on our color. But what we're doing is we're doing the same thing. I'm not saying that to say that we shouldn't be proud of our heritage. We shouldn't be proud of the achievements of individual people. And it does make us proud, and we should embrace that pride. But when we start forgetting the bigger picture, when we start forgetting what it is based on, then we have a problem. So we must be conscious of what is moving inside of our minds to make us think the way that we do and believe what we do. Never having had the opportunity or privilege of seeing ourselves beyond stereotypes and definitions as ascribed by systemic racist institutional structures within every aspect of our daily lives, unlike white people who enjoy the benefits of being singular human beings, many of us conflate independent thinking with individuality and selfishness, thereby offsetting our own ability to think as a singular person and remaining trapped in groupthink and diffused identity. I read often where a supposed lack of unity is the inspiration for creating a collective consciousness over individual thinking. Frankly, it's a fallacy to believe Black people are not already united, since unity itself is created through our fused identity, of which we have in abundance. And again, it is a good thing as long as we do not lose sight of our ability to express our individuality through independent thought, which is not selfish. Take, for example, the economic success of a Black person moving out of the old rough hood and never returns. To many, this person might be seen as selfish and who forgot where he or she came from or lost his or her Blackness when stepping out of the neighborhood. The fact is, people move all the time. These are individual choices for individual people. They have not betrayed Blackness. They just moved. Now, there are those who gain a high measure of success and are unwilling to help the community from which they came. This behavior is most likely selfish, and still, it is definitely individual thought by individual people. The point here is, not every individual behavior is being selfish to the group. A person can enjoy being an individual with separate thoughts and not be considered selfish. Whether Black people are engaging in groupthink and fused identity because Serena Williams won another tournament, or hiding behind our sandwiches at work because the weekend shootings in the neighborhood are the top discussion at lunch, or slamming ourselves on social media because we are keeping it real, Understand, we are following the edict of white supremacists who believe everything we do is because we are Black. We created our Blackness, our state of being, who we are, our fused identity, which created our unity. Now is the time to change how we Black group think and heal our Blackness for good. That concludes the essay. I hope you enjoyed it. I want you to feel free to share this video. I want you to, and especially in the spirit of Black History Month, I want you to share this video. And I also want you to visit my website and join my subscriber list. The website is www.calise-writer.com. That's www.calise-writer.com. Now, I notice I do have a few people who came on, and I want to thank everybody who did. I want to thank everybody who popped in, and those who popped in and stayed, and those who popped out. Maybe you were doing something and you couldn't stay in, but I want you to take an opportunity to either read the essay on my website or listen to this video. It will be available also on YouTube once I doctor it up, so to speak, pun intended. So let me just kind of go through some names. Got John Blaze and Walter Johnson, Dwayne Smith, Leroy Glenn, Mark Bishop, Florizel Thompson, Bella Foley, Melanie Fielder, James Bradford Brewer, Willie Weatherby Jr., Barry Dobbs. Hey, Barry. Yazzie. Hey, Yazzie. How you doing, girl? Eugene Robinson, Howard L. Sutton, and Casey Williams, Daoud Chamazi. How you doing, Daoud? Thurston W. Kinsey joined. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comments section here. If you need some clarification, you can always message me or contact me on my website in the contact section. The website has got two new contributions from our featured writers. And there's also, for us family practice people, we've got another book for February. Okay, so you can check my website to find the book that is that I'm recommending that we read. Okay. Anyway, hey, it's been a little over half an hour. I thought this thing was going to take like 2 hours, but it didn't. So again, please feel free to share this video. Feel free to jump on my website and subscribe so that you can get all the updates and know what's going on. And I'll talk to you later. Oh, wait a minute. I got a comment. Let me address this comment. Oh, no, I guess I didn't. I thought I had a comment, but I didn't. It says one comment. Oh, okay. That was, oh, good morning, Barry. Good morning. Good morning. I'll stay on for a little while longer. I won't go yet because it says 39:06, so it hasn't been an hour. These videos usually last about an hour because they get a little winded. But if you've got any questions or comments that you want to make with regard to what you've just heard, pop it down there at the bottom and I'll try to address it now. Or if you do this after the fact, after this live is over, you can put it in the comments section, and I always go to the comments section and I acknowledge it, that I've seen the comment. I will always acknowledge that I've seen your comments. And if you've asked me a question or and you want a response, I will definitely I'll definitely respond. Now, Julia. Hi, Julia. Now, Julia said it's not the same as assimilation. No. Assimilation was integration. That's what it was. Okay? That's simply what that was. Assimilation means assimilating. And what we did was assimilate or integrate into and here's the funny thing about that whole assimilation integration thing. We were already entrenched in white land in America. What ended up happening during the movements of the 60s and the 70s, they retooled racism. They euphemized the system from into or I guess you could say conflated it into segregation. So segregation became racism. That wasn't what Black people wanted. We didn't really care whether we shared spaces and I can say that with absolute surety. We wanted equality, equity, justice, and opportunity. And what we got was a limited apportionment of economic opportunity. That's what we got. And the right, as though that was the sum total of the end of racism, was the privilege of sharing spaces and places with white people. So that's what assimilation was. We were brought in and given basically limited opportunity in two areas, in education and three areas: education, entertainment, and economics. And that includes housing and whatnot. Employment, labor, economics, that's all part of that. And trust me, it was limited. So if there are no more, are there any other questions? Or looks like it says here, it says 3 people are on. I'm not sure what 3 people are on. It says it's got 10 comments. I can't see them all. I wish I could. Mohammed. It says 10 comments and I can't really see them. It says Mohammed, I mean, you made a comment, but I can't see it. I will 9 times out of 10, I'll be able to, Facebook is really jacked up with their live feeds. I can't see your comments. It shows me that there are 10 comments, but yet I can't see any of them except for the one that came up. And here's another new one. It says, okay, this is Julia. Will we ever get that equality? Will we ever get that equality? That's not a question I can answer because that's not even up to me. I'm not even going to be so arrogant as to try to answer that question. I'd have to be probably living on the right-hand side of God to answer that one. Can you discuss or elaborate on the birth dearth one day? I'm not even sure what that is, but you've piqued my interest, and I will definitely, in fact, let me make a little note of that. Let me make a little note of that. Birth dearth. I've never heard of that. So I'm going to look it up, and I'm going to find my notes. Hold on a second. Birth, dearth. Birth, dearth. Yeah. And I will. I'll study it. I will research it and study it and find out what it's all about. And then I'll give you my interpretation of it. Certainly. Certainly. That would be my pleasure to do that. And of course, I misspelled it. Hold on. B-I-R. Birth, dearth. Okay. Yeah. Be my pleasure to do that. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions that have to do with I gotta put my glasses back on for a minute. I'm getting old, and it's the glare from the screen that's actually bothering my eyes now. I'm more than likely have to take them off again when I read because I'm nearsighted. Anyway, okay, let's see. Jane Elliott discusses it. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm not sure. She has her theories. I like a lot of what Jane Elliott says. There's some things that there are just a couple of things, and I attribute it to the fact that she is white and that she's still seeing, even though she's very astute in the subject of systemic racism and behaviors associated with it, she is still seeing life through her white lens only. She's empathetic, very, very empathetic, and she is a crusader. She understands that most times, can't even say most times, that typically white people will not listen to anyone but other white people, and especially when it comes to racism, because they're not, or white supremacy, because they're not really, the thinking is that we don't know. They have a better handle on it. But then that's a supremacy kind of thing going on there. Yeah, no problem. I will definitely look into that for you. Are there any more questions or comments about the subject matter? Groupthink, Black groupthink, and fused identity. Anybody got any questions about fused identity? Because I literally came to that conclusion and coined the term. I don't think you're going to find any references to that. If you do, I'd be very surprised, because that's a term that I literally found in my head. Now, I'm not saying that I didn't possibly read it somewhere, but I doubt it, because I haven't read a lot of psychology books. So, but it makes sense. Hi, Leonard. How are you? Yeah. We were talking about an essay that I wrote, and once this thing is over, you can look at it in its entirety. And then if you have any questions about what was about the essay and the presentation, just feel free to put the comments right in this section here, and I will respond. If you have other questions that you want me to expound on outside of this forum, you can always messenger me and ask me, well, what do you mean by that? Or what does that mean? Or I never thought like, if you want to discuss it further. As always, I'm about making you open your minds and think about these things that you might not have thought about. I do get a lot of feedback on that, where people say, I never thought about it that way. That's the point. I want to make you think about it that way. I want you to understand. I'm not trying to change your mind, but I do want to open your mind so that you can change it for yourself. Why? Because you are an individual. Independent thought, critical thought, analyzing, coming to your own conclusions, and understanding where those conclusions are coming from. Are they coming from you, or are they coming from groupthink? Are they coming from a place where it is difficult to think outside of it? Hi, Diane. If anybody has any questions, comments, put them right there, because I'm here to talk about them. Okay? I'm definitely here to talk about it. I'm going to stay on for a little while longer. In fact, it looks like I'll stay on for about another 10 minutes or so. And that's a long time here on Facebook. That's a long time on any video. So ask away. If you have any questions or comments, ask away. We're talking about Black groupthink and fused identities. And you know, I preface groupthink with Black groupthink because there's also other kinds of groupthink, because psychologically groupthink does mean exactly what it says, as I read in the video. I mean, in the essay, it's generally small. They say small groups. I do have an issue with the small group concept, because groupthink can Trump's followers are engaging in groupthink, and that's in the millions. So you can't really say small groups. Hi, John Mason. How are you? So, again, ask a question. Ask away. Don't be afraid to ask me a question. Ask me a question. You have a concern. Give me the concern. Talk to me. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you think. I know I'm going to have a bunch of comments that I don't see now, because it's saying there are 15 comments and I don't see them. But I will definitely see them when I do end this, and I'll definitely see them when I end the video, and then I will definitely respond. Definitely respond. So, what did you think about the essay? Do you think that I'm just blowing smoke up your butt cheeks? Do you think that I don't know what I'm talking about? Tell me. Tell me that. Tell me you disagree. I'm interested in knowing your thoughts. Please feel free. Please feel free. And do share this video with anybody that you think may be interested, anybody that you think may learn something from it. I mean, because that's my goal here. I'm retired. I have no desire to run all over the country and all that kind of stuff, and you know, I mean, I won't say that. I won't run all over the country because I'm disabled. But I mean, I don't really have a desire to do anything but relax right now, because I've been working for like 45 or so years. I've been working for like longer than my children are old. And now I'm relaxing. But I have this desire to educate people now. And I'll do that until I die. And I got my degree and became a doctor of education so that I could hold the credential. And because I wanted to make my mommy proud. But I did it because I want to educate. What is it again? And does it only apply to Blacks? Okay, this is Julia. No, actually, this essay applies to Black people, but it's important for white people to read it to understand the mindset of Black groupthink and where it comes from. And because white people engage in it as well. It's white groupthink and it's white fused identity, although, and this is interesting. Oh yeah, you could, Julia. Yes, it's in the essay, and if you read the essay on my website, you'll get the definition of fused identity. Okay, let me see if I can pull that up real quick for you. I'll pull that up real quick for you. Hold on a second, okay? Let me pull it up for you. Hold on one second. I will pull that definition up for you, and it can apply. Fused identity can apply to any group, actually, because I use the example of Judaism and people of the Jewish faith. They hold a fused identity, especially as it relates to the Holocaust. So hold on one second. Let me pull this up. All righty, here we go. Okay. Fused identity. Fused identity, you listening? Fused identity means one or more concepts of any particular identity as defined are fused into the identity of the entire group or race, usually through thought and deed. Blackness can be called a fused identity because it consists of concepts of identity which sprung from the enslavement, racism, the African diaspora, and even religion for some. For Black people, this fused identity creates unity. And for anybody, this fused identity can create unity. Let me see if I can find the reference to. Well, if you read the essay, you should be able to find it. Hey, Xavier White, how you doing? John Mason, I think I said your name. Yeah, you should be able to get a handle of how the entire essay comes together and is shaped based on those two things. I was getting ready to say something about fused identity of white people. That is something that is for some who have that fused identity. It's the identity of whiteness, which creates unity. But it's white superiority is a fused identity of many white people. Okay? If that makes any sense for you. Hey, Billy Woodard Jr., you're saying thanks. What did I do? You saying thanks for this essay? I hope so. I hope you enjoyed it, or I hope that you get a chance to look at it later. Yeah. Anyway, like I was saying, my 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 purpose is to educate on this subject, because this subject is important, because it is exactly what's going on in this nation. They can gloss around it, they can gloss over it, they can gloss through it, they can say whatever they want to say, but the moment that they use the Civil War as a reference, it comes right back to black and white. I began reading the essay last night. Somewhere around the end of the second or third paragraph, you said something that stopped me in my tracks. I couldn't get past it, so I stopped reading. I'm going to read the entire essay starting from the beginning. That's interesting, Diane. You can get with me on Messenger. Get with me on Messenger so we can discuss what stopped you in your tracks. You said somewhere around the second or third paragraph. Okay, let me call that up because that's interesting. Okay, here's the first, second. It would be third. Okay, the third paragraph, Diane, actually defines groupthink psychologically. The second paragraph only talks about me discussing or observing the phenomenon of Black groupthink and what I call fused identity. It says, I'm not a scholar in this. This isn't a scholarly essay, not going to be peer reviewed. I was going to be observing the behaviors that are a definite part of the overall makeup of the consciousness of Blackness, the state of being Black, and how we do ourselves internal injustices and may not even be aware. So that was the second paragraph. 1, 2, 3. So yeah, you and I need to discuss it so that I can find out what stopped you in the second or third paragraph. Okay? That'll be good. Must have been the end of the third. Okay, I got you. The end of the third, where I discuss an observation of behaviors that are a definite part of the overall makeup of the consciousness of Blackness, the state of being Black, and how we do ourselves internal injustices and may not even be aware. No, you should read this whole essay, and this will clear all that up for you. It will definitely clear it all up for you. Yeah. It should. No, I won't say definitely. It should. Sometimes my essays create more questions than answers, but that's the kind of that's actually part of what I do, because I want to spark. I want to make you think, and I want to make you think about the subject. I want to make you think generally. Get that stuff working. Get them gears turning. And so that you begin to ask questions. Okay. Yeah. If you are white and you do not understand the consciousness associated with being Black, this essay is for you, because it will help you to understand Blackness to a degree, because it's much more complex. What I do is I observe two pieces: the push-pull dynamic, the railing against the negativity that white supremacy and racism creates, and the unity that is fostered through our fused identity with regard to it. But how that same fused identity we can end up using against ourselves, not even being aware that we are. Because our fused identity or Blackness, our concepts of ourselves as Black people, come from our shared experiences with regard to the enslavement, racism, white supremacy. And it unifies us for good and for bad. It just automatically does. I don't know whether anybody has seen the video that I did called Unity. It's on my CLE Smith page. It's C period Elise Smith, my formal page. Look for videos and look for Unity. And look at that video. That video came about as a result of me reading where people say we are not unified, and as though unity is something that we had and don't have anymore, or never had, or is somehow a weapon that can be used against something. It's none of those things. So if you get a chance, look at the video I did on unity, presentation I did on unity. It's on my C period Elise Smith page. If you look for, you can actually put in the whole URL if you want, or just look for C period Elise Smith. And it should take you to the page. It's www.facebook.com/C period Elise Smith. And look for the videos and look for unity. Because that's another thing we need to understand. Hi, Anthony. How are you? Yeah. In this video presentation and in the essay, I discussed Black on Black crime and the fact that that's a fallacy. It does not exist in real life any more than any other kinds of crime that exist among human beings. But that white supremacy gives it much more significance. And in turn, it has basically, as I wrote, has welded itself into our fused identity and has become Black groupthink as something that is over and above anything else in this country that anybody else has ever done. That our crime is uniquely Black. That's a lie. And it's the hardest. It is the hardest lie to peel out of that brain of Black groupthink. It's the hardest one to peel apart. Because there are people who believe with their heart of hearts that Black on Black crime is special. And that we need to unify in order to eradicate Black on Black crime. Do you know how impossible that is? Do you know that this is so self-defeating to even consider as a thing? Crime is crime. And crime in our community is something we should always work toward stopping. But the mechanisms that are in place are designed to continue it. And there are mechanisms in place for any poor communities, economically strapped communities in this country of any color. So, just so you know, that's one thing that you really should strip out of the groupthink mentality. Just strip it out. It's as easy as changing your mind. I'm not trying to change it. I'm trying to open it so that you can change it for yourself. And I give you these, I'm giving you the wherewithal to do so, to change your mind and understand that this group think is it helps perpetuate and support the ideology that we all say we don't want to live under. But yet we do the things that keep it going, that keep the ideology alive. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, you should. Hi, Clyde Pickens. We do the things that help to keep the ideology of white supremacy alive and kicking. And a lot of times we don't even know it. So this essay says, begin to think about your behavior. Begin to think about what causes the behavior. Why do I think every time I turn on that television? I don't even watch the local news anymore. And you know why? Because the first 15 minutes of local news is nothing more than crime in the Black community. So you would think that there exists no other level of crime anywhere else in the city or the state or the country than Black people killing Black people. Why do you suppose they do that? Certainly, if you do your math, we are only 14% of the population of the United States, but yet let them tell it we're the only ones that commit crime. And that's not to say we don't. What that says is we're human, living in an inhumane world, country, especially right now. That's what that says. But you have an ideology and a group of people who want you to believe that crime is uniquely a Black problem. So what do? They show you only Black crime. I'm telling you, those of you who have not watched Investigation Discovery, I recommend you turn that on. The only problem I have with Investigation Discovery is that they frame the stories as idealized. And even though you know that these things happened, it's in the framing. But they commit crimes too, and lots of them, and heinous ones. And in communities where they will tell you, oh, this just doesn't happen here. Well, guess what it did? Excuse me. But that cracks me up every time I hear that crap. This doesn't happen in this. Yes, it does. And it did. And guess what? You commit crime too. but you won't see that on your nightly news. You won't see that on your local news. First 15 minutes, you're not going to see that. You're going to be too busy hearing about, especially on a Monday. Jesus. So, anyway, okay, I am an hour and 15 minutes. I said I was going to stay on for another hour. If there are no more questions or comments, and I certainly don't want to begin to digress, which I so often do, I will begin to look at some of the comments that I didn't get a chance to see. Yeah, there's one here from Billy Woodard Jr. that I didn't see, and Muhammad Amin that I didn't see. So, oh yes, I did see Billy Woodward. I did see yours, the one that said thanks. Thank you to you too, and thank you for everybody who decided to get on and look at the video and listen to the video essay. And thank you to everyone who popped in and popped out. Please come back. Again, Cecil Hankins, thank you for giving me the inspiration for this essay. I appreciate you. And I'm about to get out. Okay? Think, people. Keep thinking and keep taking the deep dives. Talk to you later.